Hey there, folks, and welcome to a special Monday night edition of OU Insider Live. I'm Parker Thune. It's typically Brandon Drum that's sitting alongside me, but tonight he is unavoidably detained due to dad duties. And so, in his place, one of the greats at the University of Oklahoma, you all know him and love him if you listen to the Barry and Mack show, Damian Mackey joins the program for about the next hour or so. Really, really excited to talk some ball, talk some shop with DMack. Of course, he was a member of the 2000 national title team, for those that aren't familiar with his resume. And these days, he loves to break down every single aspect of what's going on in the field with this Oklahoma team here in 2024. But before we get started, I want to remind you all that we are brought to you tonight and every night by Jani-King. Jani-King is the greatest team to ever clean and a proud partner of OU Athletics. They deliver spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can visit janiking.com for unbeatable commercial cleaning services. Go Sooners. That's JANIKING.com. Jani-King. Also want to remind you, if you've not yet downloaded the Autograph app, a lot of super cool exclusive content on that app, and it is free to download if you go to link.ag.fan/boomer and use promo code Boomer. Again, link.ag.fan/Boomer and use promo code Boomer to get tapped in with the good folks at Autograph. DMack, man, how you doing? How's life?
Doing well, brother. I'm doing well. I'm on sensory overload. I'm looking at the live stream. I just figured it out how it works. So I got it going on my phone. And nah, man, anytime I can, talk ball with you guys, more than happy to. Want to say, man, just grateful. Uh, if you've been around the block, most people know that I've been doing this for about 10 years, just because I want to talk OU athletics, mainly football, and having the ability to do it with good people, man. You and Drum are really good guys, and I just open doors. Appreciate you guys, and anything I can do whenever I can, I'm all in to help.
Well, we appreciate you, certainly. And I know there are many that enjoy listening every single week to your thoughts, to Barry Wise's thoughts on the Barry and Mac show. Uh, let's rewind before we look ahead. Let's rewind to what happened this past weekend against Auburn. For those that haven't listened to your podcast, for those that haven't read 10 Thoughts over at ouinsider.com, would highly recommend that you sign up at ouinsider.com to access all of the insight and intel from DMac, from myself, and our whole team at ouinsider.com. But for those that haven't tapped into the pod or the 10 Thoughts yet, DMac, what are some of the key bullet points that you walked away with, some of the key impressions that you
Hey
walked away
everyone,
with
this is your
after
head coach
Oklahoma's
Sam
very
Purcell.
resilient, albeit ugly at times, 27-21 victory over Auburn?
One, we got a quarterback. I think it's very important to just be very clear and say, hey man, you want to go with the guy who's going to get the team up, prepared, excited. You see those guys playing harder. I think that's pretty clear cut now. Oh, and also protect the ball. I think we've been having issues protecting the football ourselves, and the pup has shown that he's going to do that. Number two, defensively, I think we're a better team schematically when we're playing forward, when we're multiple, when we're showing stuff and then disguising things, when we're blitzing or maybe showing blitz and backing out. We probably aren't like just good enough to line up every down and just play, but we're damn good enough to make the offense think pre-snap what the hell's going on, and then we show them something different, and guys can jump in windows and be athletes. And then number three, on the offensive side of the ball, we've got to find playmakers. And I'm not going to belabor some of my own personal thoughts. You'd have to go read those. And I'm pretty candid about how I feel about certain situations and formations and guys and whatever. But what we need to do from a macro lens, Parkers, we need to find guys who can actually go make a play. And whether that's a receiver, a tight end, a running back, obviously we've got a quarterback who's shown he's going to do that. It's going to be key, right? Going into the second half of the season, being able to leverage this bye to install more depth to the playbook, install more route combos, install more blocking concepts. You're already starting to see that happen. We saw some stuff happen just this Saturday that we hadn't seen in a couple of years, which we may speak to tonight. But optimism, you know what I'm saying? 4-1 is a totally different feeling than 3-2. 1-1 in conference is a totally different feeling than 0-2, and it's rivalry week, excuse me. So going against Texas, knowing that in that rivalry, the better team doesn't win, going into that rivalry that your record doesn't matter, your blue chips don't matter. We don't care. I'm sure they don't care, but we know we don't care. Show up on the second Saturday in October and ready to get your head knocked off because that's how we come in. And so excited to see our guys are going to come into that game with meaningful disposition to kick some tail and some momentum coming off an SEC win.
Let's talk about Michael Hawkins. I feel like that's the natural place to start. If he had not solidified his stranglehold on that QB1 role, if it was not clear to everybody across the board that this is your guy now, I think it became clear, not necessarily when he rushed for that 48-yard touchdown, impressive as it may have been, the way that he knifed through that defense and beat everybody to the goal line, but it was the 2-point conversion. It was for the second straight week, that guy just selling out, going all out at the goal line to make sure points go on the board for his football team. That was the moment at which it felt like everybody got on board the Hawkins train. And there were many, I would say probably 90% of the folks across the fan base were already on it. If he had any doubters left, that got rid of him, that play right there. But man, he's put some really good stuff on tape through his first 6 quarters as QB1. No turnovers. That's very crucial because in this league, you give the opponent even one freebie, it can come back to bite you in a very significant way, as we saw with Peyton Thorne and Auburn on Saturday. But man, let me ask you this. Schematically, and there is going to be a transition. There has been a transition from what the Sooners were doing with Jackson Arnold at quarterback versus what they are doing and will do with Michael Hawkins at quarterback. But schematically, what are the things that you need to see moving forward starting next weekend against Texas to try and help Michael Hawkins unlock this offense's full potential, limited as it may be with so many wide receivers injured?
I'd love to see us play more on the edge. We ran one true bootleg Saturday, and on that true bootleg, we put the force defender. I wouldn't necessarily call it the edge defender because I think it's a corner, actually. It's the person who has the flats who have to keep us from out leveraging them. That individual is in a stressed environment. He's looking like, oh, crap, this guy can run. And Bauer is running an arrow, and then he cuts up on the sideline. He kind of turns it into a wheel route. And obviously Hawkins plays it perfect. He baits him up just a little bit to give him the impression he could run, and then he just throws it right over his head. That's a play. That's a style of play that's very easy to read. It gets the quarterback away from the fray of the offense and defensive kind of just minutia, and then it also gives him the ability. He's not 6'4", 6'5", right? So he can get away from a lot of the pressure and see. He can see things. Kid's got a live arm, and so I think we need to do more on the edges in terms of boot. I think we need to do more on the edges in terms of run schemes. I don't know why we're not running the stretch zone where the running back has the ability to press the line of scrimmage and cut back, or press the line of scrimmage and out leverage the team. I think that might help too. And some of the issues, well, let me not use those. That might help Barnes and some of the issues he's having in seeing daylight. And then number 3, we have to make sure Texas knows early and often that there is a threat to throw the ball to the second and third levels of the defense. He throws a dime to Hester for the fade or the go route, but he throws a dime to him as well on kind of that sail route. He's running down the sidelines, and then Hester kind of pivots out, and it's like 2nd and 18, and he throws a 15-yard rope. So the kid has the ability to make the throws. He has a layered throw to Raggins on the sidelines against Tennessee. That's not a puppy throw. That's not an easy throw to get over the backer and then get it to the receiver before he hits the sideline. And he's thrown really good passes on in cuts, right? Bauer Sharp comes to mind on the OPI that gets called back this week. Petaway comes to mind on the RPO that he puts it in Barnes' belly, pulls it out, and then throws the RPO, and he hits Petaway in stride. We've got to make sure Texas can see we can do those style of plays. I don't know if we're going to do RPO, but the threat to get into the second and third levels, we got to show them early because we got to give ourselves space and an opportunity to be able to run the football.
By the way, folks, if you want to chime in, if you want to ask a question, you want to ensure that we get to whatever topic you would like to talk about, or you'd like to ensure that we answer whatever question you have, the easiest way to do that is to drop us a super chat, which is a chat with a monetary donation attached to it. Doesn't matter how much it is. It could be $1, it could be $100. You give us a super chat, we're going to read it throughout the show. If you just want to interact via the regular chat, that's fine. But obviously, there are enough of them that pile up over the course of the show that we can't promise that we'll get to every single one, but we will get to every single super chat. That's the promise that we make you every single week. Jesse Dyer threw us $2 and said, "Here is the band Trophy Club Sooner Fund." LOL. That's a shout out to a very notable troll on the OUinsider.com VIP board. We got another super chat. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh yes, Jesse again. What's DMack's thoughts on having Burks back with Hawkins and the effectiveness of the offense? Love your deep dives and knowledge of the game. All right, DMack, thoughts on having Burks back with Hawkins and the effectiveness of the offense?
Can we take it one level deeper? Can we go one level deeper than that, Parker? Are you okay if we
Let's
do
do
that?
it. Let's do it. Yeah, by all
13,
means.
13 gave us some hope that he can go out there with the pulse and make some stuff happen. Guys, we need his 6'3", 6'4" body. He's a big dude. He's a threat. He can big boy corners. Go stick 13, Hester at X. Because you need to run that backside slant, that backside go route, that backside core route, right? They're gonna, we can effectively match that person up away from the other 10 guys on the field. Go get Burks. We need Burks. Put him back as Z. He can do all the behind the line stuff. He can motion. He can jet sweep. He can do all the things, screen, all that good stuff, right? And then obviously he's got a tight end next to him, so he can do combo routes. They can rub route the whole nine. If that happens, that allows us to put Brennan Thompson back in a slot position. Brennan at X is not a plus. Brennan against backers and safeties is a mismatch. We saw that happen a couple times last year. Big plays. He's running that ugly dig or that ugly post in between, splitting the safeties. Backers can't carry him on a deep corner route. They just can't run with the kid. That's going to make for explosive plays and a threat against the defense, and then put Tatum at running back, a kid who can actually run with his eyes open, run the daylight, create angles and big plays potentially with the ball in his hands. Guys, that's a frontline skill position group. Obviously, you got Bauer at the wide position. That's a crew that you can go out and be dangerous. That's a crew I feel comfortable saying, hey, we can go man for man with Texas and actually give them something to think about. So Burks coming back is key, because if Burks comes back and Hester can play the X, by the way, Hester's been playing Z. Just for everybody, all intents and purposes, he's been playing on the same side as the tight end primarily. But if he can play the X position, which I think he has the body type for, that allows us to have Bauer and Brennan in positions where they're a more plus, all right, in the offensive scheme. And then, I mean, we're going to see too. We all know Barnes is going to get to tote the rock, but I would love to see Tatum get some carries. I would love to see Sawchuk get more carries. I think that's a crew with Hawkins playing point guard where we can go be dangerous.
I want to come back to Tatum in a second, because obviously he had to sit out this week after the injury that he sustained against Tennessee, but the expectation is he will be back against Texas. I just want to throw this out there, and we were having this conversation over on the OUinsider.com message board earlier today. Don't have the expectation that Deion Burks is back for Texas, because what I think is worth understanding here, and look, one of the most frustrating things about our job is having certain things that you can't out and out say, but also trying to point people in the right direction such that they can put two and two together and you don't end up burning a source or screwing over a relationship in the process. Consider this, and this is a point I made earlier today. What Brent Venables said pregame about Deion Burks going into the Auburn game was, okay, yeah, obviously he's unavailable for Auburn. I can't remember whether he said they did an MRI or did an X-ray or whatever. He said the report was that it was a little bit more serious than they initially anticipated, but he said, and I quote, he'll be back soon. Keep this in mind, though. Brent Venables' evaluation of Branson Hickman was a little too optimistic. Brent Venables' evaluation of Nick Anderson was a little too optimistic. Troy Everett, much the same. Gentry Williams, Jake Taylor. You can go on down the list, and BV's evaluation of how close guys are to coming back from injury time and again have not been commensurate with the actual prognosis. And that's not his fault, to be clear. That is not his fault. But just because he insinuated that Deion Burks is going to be back soon does not necessarily mean you should have that expectation. So hopefully Deion Burks is back for Texas, because, man, that's going to inject some juice into this offense with what he brings to the table. But I'm trying to set the expectations where they ought to be right now. Nobody should be operating under the impression that he is 100% back for Texas, because at this point, especially with how many other injuries have befallen the wide receiver core and how many of those injuries have dragged out as far as the timeline for recovery, man, you kind of have to operate with the presumption right now that what you have healthy is what you got. And anything extraneous from that is a pleasant surprise. So, but I kind of went off on a diatribe there. Circling back around, Taylor Tatum. Man, I don't know if you share this opinion. It's an opinion that I think after the last 2 weeks in particular, I'm willing to throw my hand down on the table and say, yep, I believe it. And my belief is that Taylor Tatum's the best running back on this roster, or at least the guy, to me, DMack, that offers the most potential, because he can create something out of nothing. When there's nothing there, and oftentimes just with where this offensive line is right now, sometimes there is nothing there. Taylor Tatum's a guy that has shown time and again he can move it forward. He can get beyond the line of scrimmage, as opposed to taking a 2-3 yard loss and then you're behind the chains and setting yourself up for a second and long, third and long. Even when there's nothing there, Tatum is just good at getting the most that he can possibly get given the circumstances. And that's kind of the guy you need right now in that backfield.
Are you asking me or are you telling me?
I guess my initial question was, do you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know this, I've been sounding this since really I watched the Auburn game again. The offensive line played fairly well Saturday. By the way, there's not one play the entire game that Barnes is tackled in the backfield. There isn't one. There isn't one play where there's some operational mishap or there's some brain fart pre-snap and some guy has a run through. There isn't one. Every single play, they're not clean, but like you just said, there's some meat on the bone. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think Taylor Tatum is a guy who naturally runs to daylight. I think he's a guy who understands in a zone scheme. There isn't like a predetermined hole to run through. Like if you're running a 24 power or a 25 counter, you don't. You run to where they're not. Your offensive line are designed to cover folks up. And if they can get width or depth, both are good. All right. And the running back finds the crease, knifes through it and can get to the second level, and he's 1v1 versus the backer or the safety. Tatum has shown that he can do that pretty confidently. And here's the other part. And I don't work for the university, so I can tell the truth. And I talk to my buddies offline and I tell them the truth. Barnes hasn't done it. And people want to argue with me every week. And I'm just like, okay, I think you saw an OU Insider. I was like, let's pull up the film. The film doesn't lie. And the film is pretty evident. It's pretty clear. It's pretty damn inflammatory as far as I'm concerned in terms of this last game. We need playmakers who can go, you just said it, do something with the ball. And as man, Barnes runs hard, good kid. You can tell he's a guy who knows he's assignment sound. He's, by the way, looks like a dog. I mean, I'm on the sideline like, God dang, he's a thick, he looks good. We need somebody who can play good. Play great. And so nothing against him personally, but at a point where we are, Parker, we need somebody who can go make 2 or 3 guys miss in the hole and pop one. We're desperately going to need that on Saturday. And every time we don't have a guy who can do it, getting the ball, that's an opportunity lost. So I agree 100%.
And look, I'm with you all the way on that, because, and I'll admit, I was an early adopter on Javonte Barnes when his class when they were all, I guess, rising seniors just finishing up with their junior year. I said, I'm on record saying it, and I believed it, and I still believe he had the potential, but I thought he was the absolute best running back in the 2022 class. And from what we saw of him as a true freshman, there was some belief that, okay, he can hit that ceiling. Like that's the type of dude he can become. And then
Agreed.
2023 rolls around. He's dealing with the injuries the whole way. He's never really himself, lacking that fifth gear, and it's obvious. And so he spends the whole offseason resting up, getting right. And he breaks camp in 2024 as the guy that, at least through the first third of the season, kind of led the committee in the backfield. Now, we've seen Taylor Tatum make a really, really strong impression in limited action. Gavin Sawchuk just hasn't really been that effective to date. He popped a nice run on Saturday that ended up getting called back due to a penalty, but Barnes has touched the football in 2024 more so than any of the other running backs. You look at the snap, or at the touches. He's got more touches than anybody in that backfield committee. But I agree with you, man. And the tape doesn't lie. There's just there's some limiting factor there. The instinct, whether it's that or the vision, whatever it is, there's a lot of meat left on the bone at times, and he's got to get better, because if he doesn't, man, you got Tatum. Tatum's nipping at his heels as it is, and I think if we get another 2 games of 2 or 3 games of Barnes looking like the same iffy dude that he is running the football, that he has been through the first 5 games, and Tatum continues to consistently average no less than 4 or 5 yards per carry with the touches that he gets, then that's where you're going to see the backfield transition to more of a heavier workload for Taylor Tatum, and Javonte Barnes gets shuffled down the depth chart. Now, I don't know where Gavin Sawchuk fits in all this, and I understand why his touches have been severely limited, because going into that Auburn game on the season, he had 18 carries for 33 yards, and that's just not cutting it for a guy that proved to be such a home run threat last year. It's really kind of baffling why he's been so sluggish to start the 2024 campaign. And yeah, okay, it's not all on these guys' shoulders. The offensive line play hasn't been necessarily up to the same standard that it has been in years past, but there's something to be said. And I think a great example, an awesome example of this phenomenon, is the guy that I think is right now easily one of the top 2 players in college football, might be the number 1 guy. Have you spent a whole lot of time watching Ashton Jeanty at Boise State,
Oh,
DMack?
he's my favorite. Oh, he's the
Oh
best
my
running back in America.
goodness.
Best running back
Oh
in
my
America.
goodness. That's one of those guys where, like, it doesn't matter how well things are blocked. It doesn't matter how many dudes he's got running at him from different, man, he's just
He's the best running back in
keep,
America.
yeah, no, he's averaged north of 10 yards per carry to this point in the season, on track to break Barry Sanders' single season rushing record.
Wow.
And I get that not everybody is Ashton Jeanty, right? But he's a really good example of a guy that can create on his own. And the circumstances really don't need to be perfect in order for him to go and make lemonade out of lemons. And I don't necessarily need Javonte Barnes to be Ashton Jeanty. Heck, I don't need Taylor Tatum to be Ashton Jeanty, DMack. But what I like about Tatum, and what I think has enabled him to be held in such high regard so early on by folks like you and I, and a large contingent of the fan base as well, is that he gets what he can get, and he's never going backwards. Never.
I listen, I buy that. Um, we saw early that, listen, guys, when you run a zone scheme, all right, it's not designed for you to haul ass right into the fray. It's not. It's designed for you to be able to have chemistry with the offensive line. It's designed for you to see, when you're the running back in your zone, you can see if they're in an over, if they're in an under, if the backers are set, if they're cockeyed. There's a safety that's going to be the backside C gap. You can see it pre-snap, or you can feel it as you're pressing the hole, and that creates natural pockets of opportunity. If you're a running back and you're starting here and you literally just run like a half parabola, right? That you're kind of like running that angle, like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody can dictate the angle at which you're coming. That's a lot of time how Barnes is running with the ball versus if I'm running a stretch or even an inside zone concept and I take the ball and I take one step this way, the defense has to also do that. That gives my offensive lineman an opportunity to cover guys up and I can just cut back the other way. Parker used the term knife. That's how you knife through the hole. You create an angle that's going to give you an advantage. Taylor Tatum has shown he can do it. He's done it consistently. But he did it in games where we did. The O line was atrocious against Temple. By the way, they didn't play very well against Tulane in a lot of respects. And yet you've got a guy who is finding something when there is nothing. And so, and no diss to Barnes. If we're, we're scoring 40, 50 points a game and we've got a strong old line that can identify a very simple place to press, and then he can get to the second level and be big and be physical, then that's the style of back that's going to be more productive. But right now, we do need a running back who's going to be able to help an offensive line that's not dominant. And when you've got an inconsistent and probably a little undersized offensive line for the conference we're in now, we got to get a little bit heftier. Then you need a running back that's going to supplement that, that's going to complement that, right? That's going to be able to provide some value over and beyond the scheme of the play. And so I just hope, Parker, that this isn't something where we see Texas come and go and there's 8 snaps in the game where if someone special got that snap, right, that could have been a big play. That could have been a chunk play. That could have been a bump your head on the goalpost type play. And we don't. And because we don't, that impacts the outcome of the game. I'm never going to say we lose to Texas, but gosh, God forbid, right, we miss out on those opportunities. And to me, in my opinion, and I ain't nobody special. You got to make sure anything we're kind of drawn up to be specials. If Tatum's healthy, he's got to get the ball.
Yeah, well, and we were listening to pretty much every OU podcast under the sun yesterday on our drive home from Auburn, except for one, obviously. But I forget who it was. I think it might have been Teddy and Gabe that were talking about Ashton Jeanty, and I'm pretty sure the conversation was unrelated to OU in any capacity. But I think what becomes apparent when you turn on that guy's tape is that he's just different, and you can't really put a finger, like, he's got the type of talent that you can't cultivate. It's just kind of innate. And if there's a guy on the OU roster that possesses that type of talent, it is Taylor Tatum. And he is very young and he is only scratching the surface of what he's going to be. But he's got some very special potential, and you've already seen it in spurts here in 2024. To me, DMack, and I know I mentioned this to you via text last night, but you got a true freshman starting at quarterback. You got a true freshman starting at defensive tackle. For my money, you ought to have a true freshman starting at running back when that Texas game rolls around. And this is my other big takeaway from Saturday. You got to get Eli Bowen in the mix more at cornerback, because that kid is a dog, and it has not taken him any time at all to prove that the same tenacity with which he played in high school is going to enable him to be a very successful collegiate player as well. And his snap count has been limited. He's working back from a shoulder injury that kept him out the first couple games, and so they're easing him back in, and I get that. But man, on a day where Kenai Walker didn't play all that great, Des Malone didn't play all that great, one guy that I walked away going, yeah, that kid needs to see the field more, Eli Bowen, man. Eli Bowen all day long.
Plays with a chip on his shoulder. I think he has a point to prove and say, this isn't a package deal where they picked me because they picked my brother. I can make it on my own merit. This is how well he played for me. When I saw him play against Tennessee, by the way, the receivers they look like avatars. Like, dude, those guys are huge. But when he played against Tennessee, he looked like a little kid. I'm like, oh man, he's kind of small. And it felt like against Auburn, he grew 2 inches. I was like, he looked kind of, he don't look so small back there no more. So no, absolutely playing well. And he checking folks' pocket. We call that checking your pockets. You know what I'm saying? He's so close that he can stick his hand in their pocket to see if they got any money in there. And you're right. It looks exactly like he looked when he was in high school, man. Like, he just doesn't care, right? Little dude is out there, ready to get it in, ready to mix it up. Very, very excited about his potential, especially because I think we need to be more physical at corner. Kenai got cooked. let's I'll tell the truth. I'll say it candidly. He got cooked 2 weeks in a row, cooked. And he's a big, strong, this. He's big. He's a probably 6'2", 208, 212, something. He's a big guy. He needs to be at the line of scrimmage, big boying people. And I know generally they have the ability to have some flexibility, and if they want to play off or if they want to play up. And I just feel like in certain scenarios, he needs to let receivers know that I'm going to be a problem. And so I would prefer he spend more time up in folks' place playing a hard cover, a bump. But he likes to play off, and he's gonna continue to get cooked. He's gonna lose playing time if he continues to let guys cross his face on those deep posts and in cuts.
My favorite Eli Bowen play on Saturday, and I'm gonna have to look back at the broadcast footage. I've watched back the offensive drives. I haven't watched back the defensive drives yet, but I'm gonna have to look back and see if it looked the exact same from up top from the broadcast angle as it did down on the field where I was situated, which is in the end zone behind the Auburn offense. So I'm watching this from a perspective that's basically 40 yards back from where Peyton Thorne is. And I forget whether it was a screen or just a flat, something that they ran out to the boundary, and they got a ball carrier that's getting ready to turn the corner. Eli Bowen's the only guy out there. He's got a blocker on him. All that blocker's got to do is seal off Eli, and that guy, whoever it was, I can't. Might have been Jarquez Hunter, might have been a wide receiver, but he's going to be running for a while if he turns that corner. And Eli sheds the blocker, gets both his arms around one of those guys' legs, and just drags him down, not going anywhere once he latches on. And I think it ended up being a 3-4 yard gain. But if he doesn't make that play out in isolation on the perimeter, who knows how large of a gain that is.
Yeah.
And that's the type of play that you got to have from your cornerbacks, right? It's not just about what they can do in coverage. And I think this what impressed so many people about Gentry Williams last year when he was healthy is that, man, he could come downhill and he could make a tackle. He could break down, he could wrap up, and you weren't going anywhere if you got square with Gentry Williams.
We need him back. He's dog. He can be equally as effective in the run game as he is in the pass game. Here's what I will say, and I think it's important for us to speak to this. This is some of the credit we've got to give Brent and these coaches in recruiting. And Parker, this 3-4 years ago, we'd have 4 dudes. We'd probably have only 3. Yep. And if one of those dudes got hurt, we in trouble. We about to trot out a 5'9", 185-pound dude who runs a 4.6 140, and we're gonna get out athleted. And so to see us have issues at receiver, and we've got viable guys. Obviously, the corners. 5 is a guy who was an entrenched starter a couple of years ago, and now he's ancillary, right? I said that they started him early at Cheetah. He got picked on early at Cheetah, and then we didn't really see him much the rest of the game. It's because they've got other options, right? There's other guys who can come in and play winning football. Eli is a kid who is showing his weight or his value in the weight of gold. And Gentry's a guy who we can say, hey, man, take your time and get healthy. Hopefully he can get that shoulder. I'm pretty sure it's the shoulder he's been having issues with. Hopefully he can get back healthy because he's an NFL dude. Gentry's an NFL dude. He's just got to show that he can get off the medical, the medical issues, because the guy can play. And so thankfully we've got some depth in those positions so that we can keep, being competitive and being athletic enough to be factors in the SEC.
Super chats. Jacob Matthews dropped us $2. Thanks, Jacob. And he said, give me EPL at tight end. He's fast and can actually block. People love EPL, man. He's going to see the field eventually. If he sees the field much this year, I'd be surprised. But trust me, EPL is going to be right there in the thick of it for a starting spot at guard come next season in 2025. He's green. He just got here in June. Asking a lot of a young guy to have him on the field that early. But he can play, and he will play before long. What do you think is the answer at tight end right now, DMack? Because, let's call a spade here. That unit has not played well thus far.
Space Cadets, man. Every game they've done some, except for the first game. The answer is simply be upperclassmen. That's the answer. The answer is a good tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. They're their security blanket. Here's what I think happened. I think they saw the injuries, and I think one of the coaches had a meeting with them and said, "Hey guys, you're veterans, you're upperclassmen. We're going to depend on you guys more. We're going to run a lot more 12 personnel because initially, you guys know we want to run 11. We want to be in ace formation, one rack, one tight end, and be multiple all over the place. Well, we've been doing a ton of 12 since we've had the injuries, and I think they both are wanting to help the team and wanting to be bigger factors in the pass game. Um, Coaches made a great transition this week. They stopped putting those guys at the point of attack in the RPO stuff where they were kind of the deciding factors or indicators and what the quarterback was going to do because they were screwing up bad. And so they've got them kind of backside or very clean blocks, block down, block out, which is good. But they've simply got to say they need to calm down. Both of them have had plays that have been critically detrimental to the team, but both of them have ability. Bauer has a bad game and Roberts has a great game. This last game, Bauer plays he probably has his best game since Temple in terms of blocking and catching the rock. But man, Roberts kills us, absolutely kills us. And so if both of those guys can play clean next Saturday, I think that's going to go a long way toward just being able to win the game. But if we can get into 11 and we can have one of them on the field at a time because we got 3 quality receivers that are threats, that's even better.
Sharp's going to be a weapon, man, if he can shore up his game as a blocker, because he showed on those 2 catches he made downfield, got some space to run thereafter. He can move. He can really, really move with the ball in his hands. And I don't know what kind of that illegal motion penalty at the goal line. It's just like, man, what are you doing? What do you do? That's exactly what I said watching it back. I was like, what are you doing?
I saw it live, and I'm just like, by the way, I was like, phenomenal play. Damn, the scheme's good. I was like, oh, they're going to leak him across the formation. They leak him across the formation. He throws him a nice nerf. And I already know, like, they're going to call the penalty. You could just see him go a half-second fast. I'm like, oh, God. And boom, of course, they don't give us a chance to. It's dumb. That's varsity football, Parker. You're a sophomore in high school when you make it to Friday Night Lights and you start to learn if you're a guy in motion, you can't go upfield. He has no excuse. Zero excuse. That's an absolute brain fart that you just can't do.
Well, unfortunately, both the penalty that was called on him in that instance and the penalty that was called on Jake Roberts for offensive pass interference, both of those things are mistakes that you only make once, or you should only make once anyway, because that's a very easy fix on the practice field. For Jake Roberts, man, just make it look like you're running a route, because he made it a little too obvious. He helped the ref out on that call. And for Bauer Sharp, man, just don't get happy feet, don't get antsy. Ball's not coming your way anyway. Just don't feel the need to go too fast there. And that's a touchdown from Michael Hawkins to Javonte Barnes. More super chats. Mongo says, nothing like a good bye week to get our defense's legs back under them. Shout out to Winston Bowen. Man, the Sooners, and credit to that defense, they made plays when they needed to on Saturday. Kip Lewis was huge. I think he played the best game of his Oklahoma career, and I don't know that it's close. And that's not just exclusive to, he made the big play, he had the pick-6. You take the pick-6 away, it's still an excellent game 100%. For Kip Lewis. But I definitely got the sense, DMack, that this defense was a little bit fatigued. Not just because they were on the field a lot, that Oklahoma lost the time of possession battle by over 10 minutes, but it feels like this bye week is coming at the right time. 5 games in a row has definitely taken its toll physically on this defense. At least that's what it feels like to me, and you kind of started to see that in the way that they were playing Saturday.
Man, an emotional game in Norman against Tennessee, where I feel like the defense probably leaves that game with a moral victory of saying, man, you know what, we were pretty damn good against a really good team. But you can just see how much they invested in keeping that game close. What they really, left on the field on that Saturday night. And I think as Sooner fans, we were all proud of them. I think the effect of going to an Auburn team who has lost 2 games, lost to Cal Berkeley, go figure, that's like my neighborhood from where I grew up. I think it's a little underwhelming. Now that stadium and that environment, first time in whatever the hell their name, Raymond James or whatever the hell their stadium is called. Right. I think that kind of gives you a little bit of a jolt, but yeah, I agree. you couldn't ask for perfect time, better timing with this. And I'll say this, Park, and I'll pass it back. That's just a game you find a way to win.
Yeah.
Again, it's a scenario where I say, guys, you guys wanted to see Seth needs to do more stuff. No, he doesn't, because we've had brain farts every single game. You know what I saw on Saturday? 11 guys on offense who 9 times out of 10 knew exactly what to do. And they needed that. I've been there on the field when let me give you the example. 2000, we won the Natty. Parker, we won the Natty in 2000. Did we win the Natty? We won the Natty, right?
You won the Natty.
2001.
That's right. That happened.
2001. We got pretty much the same crew, guys. All of our receivers are coming back, our running backs coming back, our tight ends coming back, 3 of our offensive linemen are coming back. We lose our center and our right tackle. We lost Bubba Burcham and we lost Al Basinger, I believe. The rest of the guys are coming back. We go to fall camp. And fall camp, if you ask any receiver at fall camp who won the job, we all say Jason White. Game 1, we played North Carolina. Who's starting quarterback? Nate Hibble.
Nate Hibble.
Same scheme, same OC, same receivers, same running back. The biggest difference, trigger man. All right. Nate comes in, the offense is in a funk. If you guys go back and watch the film, the defense is ass kicking. I mean, that's Teddy Lehman and Roy Lee and those guys, Rocky Kalmus. Those guys are killing. Offense is in a funk. We play Texas, second quarter of Texas. Nate gets hurt. I think it's a concussion. Second quarter of Texas, Jason White comes in. From Texas to Nebraska, all of a sudden we cooking. Mark Clayton's cooking. I get hurt. Texas is my last game as a Sooner. I don't play against Kansas. But go watch that 4-game stretch. We're cooking. Same players, same scheme, same coach, you name it. The only difference is the trigger man. And so I say all that to say, when you're in a position, the players got to make the plays, period. And so, you're looking at an offense that you switch out the quarterback. Listen, the main reason Jackson's not playing anymore is because he kept giving the ball to the other team. And the reason that they pulled him in the second quarter, because it's egregiously being done without pressure, without bust, like he's giving the ball away, right? And you just can't afford to do that. And so, you got to give the other kid opportunity. But now you got a kid who's not going to give it away. Guys, you can't give it away with throwing a whole bunch of new stuff out there on a freshman quarterback. He's got to run 30 schemes, 30 plays. No, he's going to make a mistake mentally. The offensive line is going to make a mistake mentally. I said this in my 10 thoughts. They ran about 12 to 15 concepts the entire game. Some of you guys might get pissed off. Seth sucks. Well, we'll see. We'll see on Saturday. He's not going to have an excuse. But I think it was very wise of BV down to Seth, down to whoever created that scheme for Saturday. Say, guys, we're going to take 6 to 8 running concepts, get good at them. We're going to take 6 to 8 passing concepts, get good at them. Let's find a way to win this game and go into the bye week with an opportunity to install, get healthy, and get comfortable. So I'm going to be the biggest critic come next Saturday. But this Saturday, I was more than satisfied with what they did, because I understood the number one thing you got to do in an away game with the freshman quarterback is not make the catastrophic mistake. And thank you, Jesus, because we started putting pressure on them in the second half, and we made their quarterback make the catastrophic mistake, and that's how we win the game.
Well, and you made a really good point. And again, this is the reason why everybody, if you don't already, should add the Barry and Mack show to your weekly listening lineup of podcasts, because you made a really good point in y'all's post-game podcast. And I hadn't really thought about it like that until I heard you say it. But you basically said you got to think about this Auburn game in a vacuum, because when you're making the switch from one quarterback to another, you're not going to be able to overhaul everything in the span of 4 days on the practice field. And so you just got to find a way to go on the road in a hostile environment against a team that is talented. Yes, they've gotten punched in the teeth a couple times thus far this season, but that's still a talented football team with a good coaching staff, and they get you on their home field. And you just got to find something that works and can get you through 60 minutes, get you to the other side victorious, which Oklahoma did. Now you get the bye week to go ahead and implement everything that you want to implement. Take some more time, figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. But again, I go back to it, and you mentioned it with Michael Hawkins. The biggest thing, the most important thing that he has done through 6 quarters is he has not turned the football over. And he will not turn the football over. I'm not saying he's going to finish the year with 0 turnovers. There's going to come a point in time at which he just doesn't see a defender for whatever reason and winds up getting picked off, or you get a pass that gets batted at the line of
Yep.
scrimmage and winds up in the hands of an opposing linebacker, or an edge rusher is just going to make a really, really good play, beat your left tackle, and wind up with a strip sack as Hawkins is getting ready to throw the ball downfield. Like, these are things that happen on a football field. And so he's not immune from them. They're going to happen at some point, but he's not going to make the careless turnovers. He's not going to give the opposition a freebie. And DMack, that's really all that he needs to do for Oklahoma in 2024. With the composition of this roster, the defense is strong as it is and will continue to be under the leadership of Brent Venables and Zach Alley. Man, gone are the days where the Oklahoma starting quarterback needs to throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in order to give you a chance to win a football game. No, all Michael Hawkins has to do is get you a couple scoring drives, methodical and slow and unsexy as they may be, and just keep the ball out of harm's way. And the big play potential that he offers with both his arm and his legs make things all the more dangerous for opposing defenses. Yes, I think this offense's calling card is going to be their ability to move the ball methodically down the field, just move the chains 10 yards at a time. But as we saw twice on Saturday with the 48-yard rush, the 60-yard pass, the kid can generate a big play every now and again. Now, what we got to see at some point is we got to see the running backs, one of the running backs, prove that they're capable of generating a big play in the running game. That's what I would love. Jacob Hawkins threw $2 our way via Super Chat and said, Burke's chances to play. He's got to play, right? I said it earlier, Jacob. I would not be too overly optimistic. I would not have the expectation right now that Deion Burks plays against Texas. I'm not telling you he's 100% not going to play, but what I am telling you is that's not the expectation that you should have going into Texas week. That's a team that if they're not number one, they're going to be number two. So you're going to need to have all available hands on deck. You're going to need to play your best game of the year, both on defense and on offense, in order to give you a chance. But I think what's going to make this team believe that they have a chance, DMack, is the presence of their true freshman quarterback and the collected and unflappable demeanor that he has demonstrated at the helm of this offense over the last 6 quarters. And I don't know how much this is evident on TV, but I will tell you, having been there at Jordan-Hare on Saturday, watching that team walk off the field, you see and you feel that he has galvanized that team. They are tighter. They are closer. They are more together. They're having more fun together as a unit, as a team. And it feels like it has been the case through any of the first 4 games leading up until that point that he took over. So I don't know how much that means going up against a team as talented as Texas, but make no mistake, those guys are going to walk into the Cotton Bowl feeling like they can slay the giant.
I agree with that 100%. The kids earned it. The guys have seen it. Again, we talked about this in the Tennessee game. It sucks to see 21 guys playing their tails off. And again, this is not to demonize or blame Jackson, but man, self-inflicted wounds, right? They kill you. I made the analogy of the military. Imagine if the general says, "Hey guys, we're gonna take these 4 tanks and we're gonna keep this ridge, and I want you guys to protect the frontline guys who are going up." And the sergeant says, "No, we're gonna do something different," and then everybody dies. Right? Like everybody has to play their position, understand their role, and do their job, right? When Brent Venables says, "Hey man, we told him in this look, it's a give." Brother, you can't not give and then compound that by throwing a lateral and then compound that by not even throwing it. It's a bounce pass like we're playing basketball, and then to compound that's your 3rd turnover in the 2nd quarter. That right there is a trifecta for giving the other guy an opportunity to come up, and then when the other guy comes up, he makes plays with his legs. He makes plays with his arm. And here's what people aren't talking about enough, Parker. He makes plays with his mind. Guys, go watch Auburn. He's audible. How many times he audible? 8, 10 times. And some of those audibles, he's not looking and they're not doing all, they used to do all those signs and they'd have all these like chicken and Chick-fil-A or whatever. There's some checks that coach said, "Hey, if they show up in this is what we want you to do." I saw him going up and talking to the offensive line and checking in with the running backs and pointing to the receivers. Dude, I gotta tell you guys, that's not easy to do. I said Raymond James, whatever name you said, whatever. That's not easy to do in the stadium at Auburn. I just make stuff up sometimes, but that's not
Jordan
easy to
Hare.
do. There it is, Jordan Hare. And so to see him do that, guy is a puppy. He's a puppy, true freshman playing the most important position, and I would probably say all of sports. The quarterback position is the most unique position in team sports. Man, if I'm on defense, if I'm on special teams, if I'm a red shirt, guys, if I'm a red shirt freshman, I'm walking to Dale Hall on a Tuesday saying, yeah, that's my quarterback, because that's what that level of competitor, of leader, and really, it's a term we use when I was in the locker room, and I don't know if I can say it on here, but you guys have seen this posted on Twitter. Guys, that's gorilla nuts. That's the definition of it. A guys who's unapologetic about going out there and being physical, going out there and say, I'm rocking this interlocked OU on the side of my helmet. Bring it. You just when you get that energy, that's the stuff that creates Sooner magic. I firmly believe that. So, salute to him. He's got me fired up. We got a chance against Texas, and I don't expect to lose because we got guys like him on offense, and we got guys like 28 and 10 on defense.
And I will probably say it 100 times between now and then. The thing that excites me about this game and Michael Hawkins specifically is I know how much it means to him to wear that logo across his chest, that logo on his helmet. I know how much this opportunity means to him and how much it matters to him to go and beat this particular opponent. And I just get the gut feeling that kid's going to come out and play the game of his life against Texas. Is it good enough to win? I don't know. It's not on the quarterback's shoulders as to whether you win in the Cotton Bowl. There's a lot that has to go right. There's a lot you have to do well, but it starts with the quarterback. And I think your true freshman quarterback is going to play a hell of a game against Texas. I truly believe that. Steve O'Rolo threw a $5 super chat our way. My apologies, Stevie. It took me a while to get back around to it, but he said, why in the world are we not running Sawchuk more? Not even giving him chances to get going. I appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Stevie. I mean, you tell me if I'm missing anything here, DMack. The reason that he hasn't gotten a whole lot of touches thus far is he hadn't been all that effective with the touches he has got.
You want me to you want me to give you the politically correct answer, or you want me to my truth? Which one you want?
You know what I'm going to say, man. Keep it real. Keep it 100.
So, y'all see that put me on the spot. I got to go into that, I got to go in there and talk to my, what I'm saying? They're going to be like, Mackey, why you do that? No, the truth. Here's what I'll say. And by the way, I'm going to say it. I don't care. There's one game, Parker, that Sawchuk gets the most carries. What game is it? Easy answer. Do you know? Maybe you don't know. Do you know what game he was the leading ball handler?
It was a second game, Houston game, right?
First game.
Really?
Houston, he got 4 carries, 4 yards. Houston, he got 4 carries, 4 yards.
Oh, that's
First
right,
game
is
right. Simple. First game, it's Temple. Okay, now I don't know if I got a tinfoil hat on or if I'm telling the cold truth, and I don't know if people are gonna hear this, but there's why do you think he got the most carries against Temple? There's something that I didn't think about until like 4 or 5 days ago. I was going to redo. I'm a nerd, guys. I look at all that stuff, the analytics, the numbers. Something happened against Temple that doesn't happen every game. Do you know what happened?
I mean,
there was a violation.
A violation. No,
the running back coach didn't coach that game.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
The running back coach didn't coach that game. Okay. Now, again, so let's here we go, right? So here we go. That game, our offensive line was absolutely atrocious. And it's crazy, right? Because Tatum still has a good game. By the way, Barnes has a couple good runs off tackle. We run some off tackle type plays, and Barnes has a couple good runs. Sawchuk's absolutely atrocious, but Sawchuk gets the most carries in the one game the running back coach is suspended. There's a stat floating around. The stat is over 50% of Sawchuk's plays, when he's gotten the ball, he's been tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage.
Ooh.
And generally that happens for two reasons: bad eyes or bad scheme, right? Somebody gets cross-faced, a run through, da 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 da. And then I'm going to rest my case here on this last one. Those numbers are an indictment against Sawchuk. But you watch Tennessee, I think he gets one carry or two carries. Auburn, he gets one carry, he gets called back. Auburn. The one carry he gets, we're in a very simple formation. We're in a 12 personnel. We're in a double wing. That means the tight ends on it's strong left, tight ends on the left. We have a sniffer behind him. This the second tight end is off the line of scrimmage, so he can move if need be. We've run the play twice. It's just an inside zone, is what it is. But the play is designed to start weak side to just decide where the tight ends are, and then you run a daylight. We run the play twice with Barnes. He runs right into the traffic. 2 yards, 3 yards, maybe a yard. I don't know. I don't know. But we run it with Sawchuk one time. And you know what's funny? It's not blocked correctly. Sawchuk has a guy he's got to deal with at about the line of scrimmage. You know what he does? He gets skinny. He leverages his blocks. He gets through the hole. He explodes to the second level. He gives the linebacker some juice, and he falls for a 14-yard gain. It's the exact same play that Barnes has had the entire game, and Barnes just runs right into the play side A gap. And so I say that to say, I feel like the offensive line is trending more towards being competent. I'm not going to say like talented. I'm not going to say ass kicking, but competent. And a competent zone blocking scheme relies on a running back who can mesh with and or have chemistry with them as a unit. Because when you're running zone, it's unit. The entire line has to move in unison, and they create those natural seams. And so, personally, and where the O-line is today, I think Barnes is the least effective based upon how he runs the ball with the group today. And I'm sure Murray would say, Mackey, you're not at practice Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sure Seth would say you're tripping. So I understand that part, right? I was a guy on the team when people would say, why isn't such and such playing? And I'm like, dude, I'm on Wednesday practice. Buddy can't even finish his gassers, or Buddy doesn't do his homework, or Buddy, he's offsides, or he's false starting 3 times on the practice. We just can't have it. So I know there's at least get skinny and be able to pop out the other side. That's just not his game. And so it's going to be interesting because I think all intangibles, he probably the best pass blocker, probably, I imagine. Again, he's the biggest, stronger guy. So you think from a standpoint of like, oh, they're not going to get a lot of movement. We want the biggest, we want Herschel Walker versus Barry Sanders. So all of those intangibles might suggest that he's the appropriate choice. But if you take Temple out, which is the game, Sawchuk gets 8 or 9 carries, and I mean he's terrible. He's terrible. The offensive line is terrible. They're both equally terrible. He hasn't got a ton of carries since Houston.
So now I went back and I fact checked you on this because for whatever reason I had it in my head that Barnes had like drastically outsnapped everybody else in the running back room against Temple. Turns out that was against Houston. I had it backwards. In that Temple game, you had Sam Franklin with 4 carries for 45 yards.
Balled out.
Barnes, 5 carries for 33. Tatum, 5 carries for 69 and a touchdown.
Did he have that many yards?
Yeah. Gavin Sawchuk had 6 for 15.
Yeah,
so
most carries.
Bingo. There you go. Most carries and did the least with it. So, I mean, the one guy that has not failed to impress as a ball carrier, I get that everybody wants to harp on he's got to get better as a blocker, and yeah, that's true. But like the one guy that has not failed to impress as a ball carrier when he's been utilized has been Taylor Tatum. So I'm all in on him, man. I think in a game like the one that Oklahoma is going to play a week from Saturday against Texas, a game where you are considered the heavy underdog, man, you got to have the best players on the field and you got to put them in position to make plays. And I don't think you can convince me at this point that Taylor Tatum isn't, if we're just talking sheer juice and natural ability, I don't think you can convince me that he's not the best option in Oklahoma's backfield as it stands. Let's see if we got any more super chats here. Agate id est threw us $10. No question, just gave us $10. Thanks. We'll take it. Appreciate it. And other than that, it looks like, oh, okay, we got another one. Jacob Hawkins threw us $5. Can you please detail Nick and Andrell's injuries? Is there any chance they play? If they are hurt this bad, why haven't they been ruled out for the year? Oh, this is a headache because I'll be honest, there's a lot I can't say. There's a lot I can't say. What I can say is like it's pretty well known what's happening with Anthony, even if it hasn't been explicitly stated. Right. His knee's just not where it needs to be. He's had several procedures since the initial surgery. And I will say what I will say this about Anthony, and it goes for Anderson too. No one should expect to see them on the field the rest of the year. And if you do, kind of like Burks against Texas, it remains true. If you see them, it's a pleasant surprise. Allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised if either of those two guys do anything the rest of the year. But
Wow.
they've been, I mean, Anderson played in week 4. Anthony played in week 1. Those guys haven't been flat out unavailable all season. There was a time where they were in playing shape, but as of right now, they are not. And it's kind of a sticky situation that I'm not even really sure how to go about reporting on. But again, my expectation is does not involve Nick Anderson and or Andrell Anthony playing for Oklahoma this year. If they do, great, but if I've said it once, I've said it a dozen times this week, and I'll probably say it every single time we get asked about him or Farouk or uh, Deion Burks, whoever. Right now, the guys that you have healthy at wide receiver, that's what you got. That's what you know you got. You got to ride with those guys. If you get somebody back along the way, and Farouk is on track to come back sometime in the month of October, that ought to be a nice lift. But the guys you got right now that are healthy, that's your wide receiver room as it stands.
That
You get one
sucks.
of those other dudes back from injury, it's gravy.
You'll go from preliminary or potentially the best wide receiver room in America, in my opinion. Listen, my heart was broken when we lost Gibson, Hoss, and a dog. And I can say this. I'm on the sideline and I'm talking to my boys like, yo, what's up? What's the deal? And they said, I gotta tell you, DMack, this is what guys flat out told me. We lost our heart and soul when we lost Gibson. He wasn't surprised. Guy plays with emotion. He made tough catches even when he was a two, right? He's not playing much the first half of the season last year, but he's going out there making impactful plays. And Parker, you know this, he's huge. He's an inch and a half taller, like legit an inch and a half, 2 inches taller than Anderson. Like he's a big boy. And so I don't, here's what I say about that. You see freshmen all over America make plays. The kid, number 2 from Alabama, making plays. Ohio State has kids making plays. So you look at Kearney, you look at Carrion, you look at Raggins. They gotta just step up. Like they're, you know what I'm saying? People were saying, "Oh, Danny looks like he's injured." BS. Danny missed some tackles. He's watching film and saying, "Damn it, coach, I'm gonna make the tackle." I know that's what he's saying. We're not making excuses about arm bars and whatever. Does he have his Voltron arms on? Nah, he missed a couple tackles. It's okay. Happens. Same thing has to happen with the receivers. I saw Kearney go out there and get jammed. He got jammed on Saturday because I'm like, let me watch him. Let me watch him closely. Seven's out there. He's getting a little tuck, a little tick. He's out there. The DBs are putting their hands on him. And so I'm like, okay, he's not necessarily ready yet. I'm watching Raggins. Raggins is getting jammed against Houston. Raggins ain't getting jammed anymore. He's got some game reps. He's been in the game and understands the war, the battle that's going on play to play. I expect us, Parker, I fully expect us to show some stuff we haven't shown and make some throws we haven't thrown against Texas because we have nothing to lose. Texas has everything to lose. We have everything to win. If we win the first quarter, the pressure's on them. Period. We've got to come out, play on their side of the line of scrimmage first quarter, and put them in anxiety the first quarter. I love that Ewers is coming back. Please bring Sunshine back. Please, please. And then put the Manning in late. Put both of them boys in. They're gonna feel pressure if we come out under the right level of energy. Hawkins is gonna help make that happen on offense. 10 and 28 are gonna help make that happen on defense.
And I think that's a great place to leave it for this edition of OU Insider Live. We did get one additional super chat from Bagman, who threw us $2 and asked, PT, what staff changes would you make right now? LOL. I'll answer that very, very quickly and very succinctly. I would not make any staff changes right now. because I am not reactionary enough, nor is Brent Venables, nor is
Yeah.
anyone in the OU administration to make any such changes 5 games into a season where the Sooners are 4-1 and nationally ranked. Has it been pretty? Has it been what we all expected it to be as far as the peripherals are concerned? No, no. But this team got to the bye week, 4-1. All their goals are still out there in front of them. Do they need to improve across the board? Yes, they do. Are there things that need to be coached better? Yes. Are there things that need to be executed better by the players? Absolutely. But I take a patient approach, a very patient approach as a general rule with coaches. By no means am I going to advocate for the firing of any member of this staff as of right now when the Sooners are 4-1, ranked number 19 in the country, going into their biggest and most consequential matchup of the year against Texas. We will find out a lot about this team, and we will find out a lot about this staff in the month of October. We can have this conversation again on Halloween. How about that? We'll see where we're at then. But for the moment, I do not advocate for any changes whatsoever. Stay the course, see what this staff can do now that they got the guy playing quarterback in particular, who many would argue should have been playing quarterback from the get-go, but certainly the guy with whom you can do more offensively. So we'll see where that leads us. DMack, man, thanks so much for lending an hour of your time on this Monday evening. Been awesome talking ball with you.
Man, I had a great time. I learned how to read the comments. If you guys saw my eyes steering away, I'm trying to catch up on the comments. I'm old. I'm old. You can't fire anybody. Then what are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna hire a better candidate in the middle of the season? No, you gotta roll with what you got. Guys understand the magnitude of the season. I promise you. If you're listening to BV's language, he's not playing behind closed doors. I promise you, he's putting some pressure on folk to get the job done. And that's what we need to expect. We gotta rally behind that team. We gotta rally behind our coaches. It's Tuck Facts this week, man. Like we gotta remember, we gotta be on our we gotta be on our worst behavior with them folk because they don't like us and we damn sure don't like them. So man, I appreciate you for having me on. I generally work late on Mondays, but I said, babe, I gotta move some things around. I want to talk ball with Parker. So, we got some things situated. I'm gonna finish up my day. Appreciate all you guys as well. OU Insider community, you guys are dope. And anytime you have me back, if I can, I'd absolutely love to do so.
No, man, always appreciate you, man. Always a blast to spend an hour just shooting the breeze, talking ball, breaking it all down. I have no doubt that we will end up doing this again at some point before the end of the year. OU Insider Live is going to be back 8:30 p.m. Central Time next week. Drum and I are going to have you covered. There might be some more recruiting happenings by then that we can dive into, but it's a bye. We get to kick back a little this week. Certainly looking forward to it. But as DMack said in his 10 thoughts the other day, all you folks get an extra week to say Tuck Fexus. So savor that. We'll see you next week. Subscribe to the Barry and Max show if you haven't already on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Those guys are worth listening to. Subscribe at ouinsider.com if you haven't already. Would love to have you over there behind the curtain on the VIP message boards, getting a hold of all the exclusive intel and insight that we give to our members each and every day over there. For DMack, Parker Thune here. Y'all take it easy. We'll see you next Monday.